I'm sure like most modern Hollywood sequels, this will suck dick. So, we have the recent announcement of a Spaceballs sequel in the works. 5 years ago, I would have been excited about this. How times have changed. I am, of course, a big fan of the original Spaceballs, obviously. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be making this video. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. And you know what, hell, I'm a big prime Mel Brooks fan. I like a lot of his movies that he made in his prime, like Spaceballs. Blazing Saddles is also one of my favorite comedies. History of the World Part 1 is good. There's one on Robin Hood Men in Tights is hilarious as well. I like a lot of his older films. And I have absolutely no faith in this movie. Which tells you all you need to know about modern Hollywood. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Is that because Mel Brooks is involved with this movie, maybe quality control won't be as shit as it has been with a lot of other companies. Well, first off, just because the person who made the original comes back to make a sequel or a remake, it doesn't guarantee it's going to be good. Hell, look at the Percy Jackson TV show. But, and here's the thing. Do you guys remember an animated movie that came out a couple years ago that I did review called Paws of Fury: The Legend of Hank? It was an animated, child-friendly Blazing Saddles movie. And the words Blazing Saddles and child-friendly should never go together. And they definitely had Brooks' blessing on making the film, because not only was he a voice actor and an executive producer, he has a screenwriting credit. And then there was the History of the World Part 2, the TV show that was on Hulu, that was a sequel to History of the World Part 1. I didn't watch it because I heard it sucked ass, but he wrote all the episodes of that show, so... Because Mel Brooks has become just another guy in Hollywood. He's making just as much shitty content as everybody else in the industry. His comedies are no longer funny. They're he has succumbed to the cancel culture mob, and his movies and shows are overly sanitized. And again, I would have been excited about a Spaceballs sequel 5 years ago. But something else that came with this announcement is that Josh Gad is heavily involved. And I have a strong belief that he's going to play Darth Helmet. Now, my parents, who are also big Mel Brooks fans, my mother did say that, oh, maybe he's playing Barf. No, that's not, he's going to be playing Darth Helmet. And I don't know what they're gonna do with this sequel, but again, this sequel seems way too late. Why didn't they make this while everybody was in their prime? And you know what? You don't need a sequel to Spaceballs. Hell, the end of the movie was making fun of sequels by mentioning Spaceballs 2, the search for more money, I think was what he said. So now Mel Brooks has become the butt of his own joke. Lovely. But even if you were to make a sequel, why didn't they make this in the early 2000s back when the prequels came out? Actually, you know what? You know what I found out after this announcement when I was trying to do some research, or like maybe sort of like a release window or something? Did they say like what it's going to be about? Like, is it gonna riff on Empire, or is it gonna be the prequels? Is it gonna be the Disney trilogy? What's it gonna do? I found out there was a Spaceballs animated series that ran in 2008 for 13 episodes. Yeah, judging from the low amount of episodes and the IMDb score, apparently that show sucks as well. So, yeah. And that one surprisingly had a lot of the original actors. It just didn't have John Candy, Bill Pullman, or Rick Moranis. I think that was all the ones it didn't have. But again, with this one, what are you gonna do? And it doesn't help that half of the cast can't return because half of them are dead. Mainly John Candy and Joan Rivers, who play Barf and Dot. And Rick Moranis is retired, so we don't know, so he might not come back. You can still get Bill Pullman and you can get some of the other cast members, but Again, this seems way too late. My guess is that they're going to riff on the sequel trilogy. That would be my guess, because apparently there was an episode of the animated show that riffed on the prequels. Just one episode, by the way. Because the rest of them, every episode spoofed a different franchise, which was a terrible idea. This was a movie made to riff on mainly Star Wars, but slightly Star Trek as well. But no, throw in episodes where they spoof or they parody Spider-Man, one where they do Lord of the Rings, one where they do The Terminator, one where they do Titanic, because that totally makes sense. And no, I'm not making any of this up. Those are legitimately things that the show parodies. There was one episode that riffed on the prequels. It was a backstory for Darth Helmet. Why wasn't that the entire show? Like, riffing on the prequels. Because, again, this was still around the time where the prequels were largely despised. Because this was before Disney bought the franchise. But now this has to be a spoof of the Disney trilogy. Or hell, maybe just Disney Star Wars as a whole. And I would be down for that if it weren't for the fact that Brooks is kind of in the same league with everybody else who destroyed that franchise. So I don't... And it doesn't help that Star Wars is already a parody of itself by now. Like, again, if you've seen my reviews of The Acolyte, you know what I mean. Where Star Wars is just a fucking parody of itself. And that became especially evident with that one episode of The Mandalorian last year that had Jack Black and Lizzo. Really? That's where Star Wars went? And again, with every episode of The Acolyte just becoming more and more of a parody of the franchise, what's even the point of getting a legit parody? Especially when this one is probably going to suck, and it probably won't come out until late 2026 at the least. So, I get to dread this for several more years. Fucking lovely. I'd rather this thing just get released and get it over with. So what do you guys think of this Spaceballs 2 announcement? I think this is going to be terrible, but what do you guys think? That's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.